All right, for all you people that had worry and concerns that DGL would not be here to help you with fantasy football, we are back. Sorry for the break. We just needed it. We did for 3 years straight, and it was a chore. But let's jump right into it. We are doing these starts and sits for you this week. First up at the quarterback positions, these starts. I am starting Bo Nix of the Denver Broncos. He ended last season super strong and has another year in the system and with better running backs and an upgraded cast. Next, I am starting Brock Purdy of the San Francisco 49ers. Last season, it was a mess, but I expect them to come out strong. CMC is fully healthy, and their coach will show that he is an offensive genius like always. Finally, Trevor Lawrence, Jacksonville Jaguars. I get it, his star has dimmed, but I expect Lawrence to come out and show why he was a generational talent and push to be a top 10 QB this year, and he gets to start the season off against a terrible Panthers defense. Next year sits. We are sitting Geno Smith of the Las Vegas Raiders. Geno is going to a really bad situation in Vegas, and he has a coach that, just tends to be pretty conservative. So I am going to sit Geno. Plus, he's playing a defense that's going to be pretty tough. Next, CJ Stroud of the Houston Texans. The Texans O-line somehow got worse than it was last season, and their starting running back is out for the first few weeks. I hope this doesn't ruin Stroud. I loved him in his rookie year, but we will see. Finally, Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City Chiefs. Did you watch that Super Bowl? It was terrible. We were in Vegas, and people just were turning off this game at halftime, and somehow their O-line got worse. They're again without their best wide receiver, and they play a very tough Chargers D. And I think with Mahomes, you need to wait to see what he is this year.
It's week one of the fantasy football season, and filling out my first lineups of the season always makes me feel like a kid at Christmas. So with that being said, let's get right into it. Here are my running backs to start and sit for week one. And starting off, we are starting Chase Brown all day against my Cleveland Browns. If you followed any of my draft advice, you know that no one glazed Chase Brown harder than me. So if he's on your roster, congratulations. It's going to be a fun season. Brown has all the makings of a breakout star in 2025. Last year, Brown had nearly 230 carries for 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns while adding 65 targets, which he converted into 54 catches and 4 additional scores. The Bengals only have Samaje Perine and Taj Brooks as backup running backs, so Brown has the opportunity to be a legitimate bell cow for one of the best offenses in football this season. Start him every week without hesitation. Next up, I'm starting Dylan Sampson of the Browns in that same game against the Bengals. Sampson's ultra-talented. He's a 4th-round pick out of the University of Tennessee. You put on this kid's tape, and he just jumps off the screen. He's a shifty downhill runner with a nose for the goal line, and the Bengals are a putrid defense. He should split some work with Jerome Ford, but I like Sampson to be the guy that gets the majority of the carries out of the backfield for the Browns in a very juicy matchup against a weak Bengals defense. So give him a start in your flex spot. And lastly, I'm starting Travis Etienne against Carolina this week. Last year, the Panthers gave up the most fantasy points per game to running backs by a wide margin. All indications have been that Etienne is the starter in Liam Cohen's new-look offense. Tank Bigsby and Byshell Tootin figure to work in during the game, but Etienne and Bigsby are both probably safe flex plays considering the matchup. Moving on to players to sit, I'm sitting David Montgomery against the Packers. Montgomery's a great real-life player, but without Ben Johnson as his head coach and with the emergence of Jahmyr Gibbs as one of the top running backs in the NFL last season, Montgomery's role is in doubt heading into week one, so use caution before placing him in your lineup. Next, I'm sitting Breece Hall just for this week against the Steelers. The Steelers are always a tough defense against the run. The Jets' offense is got some uncertainty around it with a new head coach and a new signal caller in Justin Fields. And the Jets look like they're going to work in Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis on some series. So Breece Hall is a sit for me in week one. And lastly, I'm sitting DeAndre Swift against the Vikings. The Vikings were the 4th best defense against opposing fantasy running backs in 2024. And Swift is in a new system under new head coach Ben Johnson. It might take time for things to come together for the Bears this year. I like Swift's year-long upside, but let's use caution for week one.
These are my starts and sits at wide receiver for week one. First off, start Emeka Egbuka. He's going to be the number two receiving option, most likely this week for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I know a lot of people like to take the wait and see approach with rookies, but this is a good spot to play the talented Egbuka in a game that could turn into a shootout. Also, start Jerry Jeudy. This is another great matchup as the Browns are taking on the Bengals, who should still be weak on defense again this season. I expect this to be a high scoring affair in which the Browns will have a lot of passing volume, which should be good for Jeudy. Start Cortland Sutton. The Titans could be solid on defense, but Sutton should see big volume in the passing game as there really isn't anyone else on the Broncos that should take too much away from him. Game script could work against him, but I think he will get plenty of volume this week. And finally, start Tyreek Hill. If he's healthy, I expect him to tune out all of the noise and put in a great performance this week. The Colts could be solid on defense this season, but I expect the Dolphins to try and set the tone in week one by getting Hill involved. Hill will be out to prove that he still has it as well. Sit Calvin Ridley. This one hurts me in my soul. He's been one of my main targets in all of my fantasy drafts this offseason. Ridley is supremely talented, but this is a really bad matchup versus an elite Denver secondary that will likely key on him and try to force the Titans to beat them with their other receiving options who are not as prolific. Sit Jacoby Myers if you have better options. He was a stud wide receiver 2 last season, but he was in a contract dispute all offseason, and when that happens, you just don't know how locked in a guy is going to be for week one. The Patriots do play well in the secondary, and I would rather play a guy like Chris Olave or Deebo Samuel. Even DJ Moore and Marvin Harrison are much better options this week. Be cautious with Garrett Wilson. I wouldn't necessarily sit him, but I would be cautious in this spot as this matchup has the lowest over-under total of the week at just 37.5. The Steelers boast an elite defense, and I expect the Jets to try and pound the ball on the ground and create designed runs for their quarterback, Justin Fields. You probably drafted Wilson high and have to start him, but don't be discouraged if this is a tough week.
All right, let's quickly get into your tight ends to start and sit this week. First, the tight end to start. He is my tight end number one going into the season. It is Trey McBride of the Arizona Cardinals. Love this guy, all right? He is on a team that's upgrading, and he should get at least, I would guess this year, 6 touchdowns, and I just think you need to start him all day in all formats. Next, we are starting Tucker Kraft of the Green Bay Packers. Kraft is super dangerous with the ball in his hands. He gets you tons of yards after the catch, and Detroit still has a weak secondary, and the Packers wide receiving core is still a little banged up. Third, your last start will be Evan Ingram of the Denver Broncos. He has shown that he's a reliable pass catcher these last few years, and we all know that Payne knows how to use a good tight end. Your sits. Number one, Brock Bowers of the Las Vegas Raiders. I know this is shocking. Amazing rookie year. He's right there for a lot of people with McBride. But I will tell you, if you look at his numbers, he is a little boomer bust last year. And Pete Carroll and Geno Smith have shown they don't really like to feature tight ends. Pete Carroll had Jimmy Graham in his prime and did not use him that well. Next, sit Dalton Kincaid of the Buffalo Bills. I don't buy the post-hype sleeper, and it just seems like him and Allen just aren't on the same page with the type of throws he likes to do, so I would just leave him on waivers. Finally, Kyle Pitts, Atlanta Falcons. If you know me, you know I am the president of the Kyle Pitts hater fan club, okay? I just do not like that him and his quarterbacks can't ever seem to be on the same page. I preach over and over again that tight end is a position that really is most controlled by the quarterback. We will see with Penix, but again, just like I said with Kincaid, I would leave him on the waiver wire, and it's a hard pass for me.